Welcome to the Stepmom Side with Alicia, the podcast for stepmoms ready to create the life they want and one they actually have a say in. Here we talk all things stepmom life and just a little bit more. Leave the superficial conversations at the door and get ready for perspective shifts and actionable advice to help you on your way to creating the life you want, one step at a time. Hey there, welcome back to the Stepmom Side Podcast. I'm your host, Alicia, and I feel like I've tried recording this podcast episode a few times, but I keep being interrupted by people at my house because everyone's home right now. Also, I just bent my engagement ring and I tried to fix it and broke it. So I have to take that back I have to take it to get it fixed. But I'm like, dang. And I have on my engagement ring, it's got a thin band with diamonds in there. And now 3 of them are missing because of a stupid thing that I did. And I could tell that it was happening at the time. And I was like, no. Anyway, so let's try this podcast again. This one's about being disrespected by your stepkids. And I know it's something that lives rent-free in our heads, as stepmoms, because it happens all the time. And you're just like, oh my gosh, does anyone see this? Does anyone get this? So let me just ask you this. And I'm sure your answer is going to be yes to all of them. Have you ever had your stepkid roll their eyes at you? Or ignore you completely? Talk back to you, slam a door in your face, or just act like you don't exist at all. And suddenly you're questioning everything, not just their behavior. You're questioning your role, your relationship, if you're married, your marriage, your entire existence in the family. Because disrespect hits differently when you're a stepmom. A parent, a biological parent, if you want to say that, or an adoptive parent or a foster parent can think, my kid is being a jerk today. And that's where it ends. But a stepmom, me included, often thinks they just don't respect me. They don't like me. I don't belong here. I have no authority. I don't know what my role is. Why am I even here? All of the things, right? And before long, one rude comment becomes an identity crisis. You're on the floor crying. You and your partner are fighting about everything. So today we're talking about what to do when your stepkids disrespect you, how to regulate yourself when it happens, how to create alignment with your partner, and why this issue is often bigger than the behavior itself. Because while disrespect needs to be addressed, you do not need to let it destroy your peace. And to kind of keep this organized, I've separated it out into 7 parts. Part number 1, why disrespect feels so personal. Number 2, the mistake most stepmoms make. Number 3, emotional regulation first. Number 4, is it really disrespect? And I think this one's important. And number 7 is important too. But is it really disrespect? Because we need to differentiate a few things here. Number 5, the partner piece. Number 6, what respect actually looks like. And number 7, what if nothing changes? Because I get that question a lot on office hours inside the Stepmom Side community or in coaching calls. Or what if nothing changes, Alicia? Great question. I'm glad you asked. We're going to dive into that in this podcast episode. So without further ado, let's go on to part 1. Why disrespect feels so personal. Because it does. And it doesn't matter how many times people are like, don't take things so personally. Hello, are you a stepmom? Have you been a stepmom? No? Okay. Zip it. That's what I always want to say when they're like, whatever it is. Just love them more. Just whatever. I'm like, are you a stepmom? Have you ever been a stepmom? Have you ever been a stepparent? No? Okay. Your opinion is not something that I'm interested in. So let's start with something that's important. Most stepmoms don't have a disrespect problem. Most stepmoms don't have a disrespect problem. They have a belonging problem. So disrespect becomes painful because it confirms a fear that's already there. The fear that you don't matter. You aren't a real parent. You don't have a voice. You don't belong. So when you're already insecure about your role, every eye roll feels like evidence. And I remember being in marriage counseling and our marriage counselor talking about this, and she was like, Alicia, it's just an eye roll. I understand that it feels disrespectful, but as a teenager, you probably did the same thing, right? So it's completely normal for your teen stepkids to do the same thing. We don't need to address every single thing that we see. And I was like, I hate it here. But it makes sense. Also, every ignored request feels intentional. Every rude comment feels personal. Now, don't misunderstand me. Sometimes the behavior is disrespectful. We're not excusing it. We're just recognizing why it hurts so much, because it isn't just about what happened, it's about what it means. Or more accurately, let's be honest with you here, what your brain decides it means, right? We all have stories that we make up in our head. And one thing I want to just remind you before we get really into this podcast is you and I could switch roles. You and I could switch houses. You and I could switch positions in our family. And guess what? The behavior that you're going to get, I'm going to get. The behavior that I get at my house, you would get if you were here. So it's not you specifically, it's you, the role as a stepmom. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So let's go on to part number 2. The mistake most stepmoms make. So the mistake is when disrespect happens, most stepmoms immediately move into one of the 2 extremes. Extreme number 1, overreacting. They lecture, they argue, they threaten, they demand respect, they try to force authority. But here's the thing. The result that you get is a power struggle. Everyone loses. I will tell you now, like a power struggle with a kid, you will always lose. And I know this is controversial, but like options are a really great thing. You do it with toddlers, you do it with little kids. It's great for older kids, for teens and on up. Like trying to demand respect, trying to enforce authority, trying to threaten, or trying to like just do the power struggle. Like everyone loses. Like it's never a never ending battle and you will not win. So the first one is overreacting. The second extreme is completely withdrawing. And I know you know this one. Fine, I'm done. Not my kid. I won't say anything anymore. I'm out, right? It's like that black and white thinking, all in or all out. And now, my friend, is when resentment starts building. Neither approach actually solves the problem. It feels like it does. If you like try to assert your power, like you feel like you have some sort of, like you feel like you're doing something about it. If you completely withdraw, you're like, fine, the hell with it. Like, I'm out. But respect isn't created through fear. And peace isn't created through avoidance. I know we think this sometimes. But honestly, like you just dig yourself a hole and it's like, damn. And now I'm in this hole and like, how do I get out of it? I have a stepmom I'm coaching right now, and I told her this like 6 months ago. I was like, be careful on this path that you think that you want to be on, because what's going to happen is you're going to dig yourself into a hole. You can't get out of it, and now you're fucked. And she was like, no, that's not going to happen to me. And I'm like, yes, that's what I see happening. Here's what I suggest doing instead. And she was like, I definitely don't want to do any of that. And I'm like, okay, that's going to happen. And sure enough, our last coaching call, she was like, hey, so I've actually been avoiding things and I am in that hole that you were talking about to me about. And I'm like, I know. And it sucks because then it's like, how do we get out of this, right? So peace isn't created through avoidance. Kind of like the last podcast episode I had, like peace doesn't equal perfection. Also, the goal isn't control. The goal is influence, and influence is built through consistency. So if you're hot and cold, like all in, and then something happens and you're all out, like that's not consistent. Like that's confusing as hell to like the kids. I know that's kind of a lot. Part number 3, emotional regulation first. This is the part nobody wants to hear. You have to regulate yourself before addressing the behavior. I know. Annoying, right? But when somebody is disrespecting you, your nervous system wants justice immediately. The stepmom that I was just telling you about, that's how she is. She's like, I feel like I am like on the hunt for justice. Like, I feel like that's all that matters to me is the people that get it are supposed to get it. And I want like the truth and all of the things, right? And I'm like, I get that. Your brain says, we write at dawn. But if you're activated, if you're triggered, if you're spun up, you're usually reacting from hurt rather than responding from leadership. If you're activated, triggered, or spun up, you're usually reacting from hurt rather than responding from leadership. So when disrespect happens, here's where we're going to make some changes, okay? First, I want you to pause. Then take a breath. Leave the room if necessary. Go outside. Take a walk. Drink some water. Do whatever helps you get out of fight or flight. Because the goal isn't winning the moment. The goal is solving the problem. And those are not always the same thing. Because, again, I cannot tell you how many coaching calls I've had where a stepmom says, I completely lost it. And honestly, I get it, because same. But after you've calmed down, I almost said after you've calmed yourself down, that too. But after you've calmed down, ask yourself, what actually happened? What assumptions am I making? What outcome do I want? That question alone changes everything. What outcome do I want? So when you can go back and say like, okay, what actually happened? And you can think about it from a clear, calm head, then you can look at it clearly and say, okay, this happened. That was the reaction that I got. I assumed this because of that. And then I reacted this way. The outcome I got was this, but what I really wanted was that. So we need to figure out like, what outcome do we actually want? Because again, that question alone changes everything. Part number 4, is it really disrespect? This is such a tricky question to navigate because sometimes, yes, it is blatant. Sometimes no, but it definitely feels like it because, we feel like we don't belong. We feel like we're not part of the family. We feel insecure. We feel all of these things. And so it's not really disrespect, but we take it as disrespect. Sometimes it's adolescence. That's just the age that they are in life. It's just the stage. Sometimes it's emotional immaturity because same, like I have absolutely been there. Sometimes it's the transition stress. And we've talked a lot about this on the podcast too, like transitioning to your house might be a change, or trying to transition out of your house might be a massive change. Sometimes it's a loyalty bind. Sometimes it's grief. Sometimes it's a kid being tired, hungry, overwhelmed, embarrassed, or frustrated. And sometimes it's just a kid being rude. The challenge is figuring out which one you're dealing with. So, a few examples. A teenager saying, whatever, may not be launching a coordinated attack on your existence. Promise. I've lived through lots of whatevers in my day. They might just be 15. And if you've ever met a 15-year-old, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Understanding the context doesn't excuse the behavior, but it helps us respond appropriately. Maybe they had a bad test at school. Maybe they had a bad practice. Maybe they had a bad game. Maybe they're fighting with a friend. Maybe they are hungry. Maybe they are tired. Maybe they feel alone, maybe whatever it is, but we need to understand the context for the behavior. That tells us so much more. Which brings me to number 5, the partner piece. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Many of us as stepmoms aren't actually angry at the kid. Many of us aren't actually angry at the kid. We're angry at our partner because what hurts most is feeling unsupported. When your stepchild is rude and your partner says nothing, that stings. I remember being in marriage counseling and our marriage counselor saying to me, so are you mad at the kids or are you mad at your husband? And I was like, duh, the kids. And she like walked me through it. She's like, okay, well, this behavior is happening because, and then ultimately the underlying theme was he allows it. And I was like, damn it. But yeah, when your stepkid is rude and your partner says nothing, that stings. And then when your partner says, it could be worse, or at least you don't have this happening, when they minimize it, ugh, are you kidding me? And you want to sleep in the same bed tonight? I don't think so. Or when your partner acts like you're overreacting, that really is like twisting the knife, right? The conversation with your partner should sound something like, I'm not asking you to choose me over your child, because how many times is it like, that's what your partner thinks it is. Like, you're trying to make me choose them over you or you over them, right? So I'm not asking you to choose me over your child. I'm asking us to agree on what respectable behavior looks like in our home. So notice the difference. It's not about winning. It's not about choosing sides. It's about creating shared expectations. And I talk about this so much. Like, house expectations help out so much because everyone knows what they're supposed to do. Everyone knows where they're supposed to be as far as like their role in the house. Kids thrive when expectations are clear. Structure, routine, all of those things. Kids thrive in those environments. And stepmoms, yeah, we feel safer when we are not carrying the entire burden alone or wondering like, okay, what's going to happen this time? Are you going to stand up for me? Are you not going to stand up for me? What's happening? Did it? All of the things, right? Number 6, what respect actually looks like. A lot of families never define respect. And I think that this is a big thing because respect looks different to me than it does to you, to your partner, to my partner, to your stepkid, to my stepkid, to my stepson, to my stepdaughter. It all looks very different. We just assume everyone knows what it means. But like I said, it looks different to different people. So for some families, it means no yelling, no name calling, no slamming doors, no insulting people, no ignoring direct requests. Oh my gosh, it's such a big one. No speaking cruelly, simple, clear, specific, right? Like, but the more specific you are, the less room there is for confusion. And I just want to say this to you, like I say with house expectations, go for like a 50-50 at first if you try to like clear the air on this, because no one's going to have perfect respect 100% of the time. Everyone has like an off day. We don't need to lose our mind about it. But what does it look like to you guys? Like, what does respect look like to you, to your house? And then ask your stepkids. And if you've got kids of your own, ask them, like, what does respect look like to you? How do I show respect to you? So it's a two-way conversation. It's a two-way street. And if you get your stepkids to realize that you're doing this and you're going to be on the same team as them, like, we're going to be doing respect back and forth to each other. I want to be clear in what it looks like to you. I want to be clear in what it looks like to me. That is a win-win. Now, let's move on to part number 7. What if nothing changes? This is a question I get so often. What if nothing changes, Alicia? I'm doing all of the right things. I'm meeting with you. I'm coming to office hours. I'm in the community. I'm posting all of the things. What if nothing changes? This is where I want to offer some relief. You cannot force another person to respect you. You can't just say, respect me, and like, bam, it works. It happens. Nope, that's not how it works. You can influence. You can teach. You can set expectations, you can create consequences, but you cannot control another human being. What you can control is how you respond, what behavior you'll tolerate, what boundaries you set, how much access people have to your emotional energy. Sometimes confidence comes from knowing, I don't need everyone to like me in order to be okay, right? Sometimes it's okay to not be okay, but I don't need everyone to like me in order to be okay. That is powerful. And for many stepmoms, that's the real work. Not becoming more respected, but becoming less dependent on external validation. Because again, you can't control another human being. You can create consequences. You can create expectations. If you talk to me like this, then that, like, we can stand up for ourselves. We don't have to wait for everyone else to stand up for us. So if you're dealing with disrespect from your stepkids right now, and if you're in the States, summer break is about to happen, I want you to remember this. A rude moment does not define your relationship. One eye roll doesn't determine your future. One bad weekend doesn't mean you're failing. And one difficult phase doesn't mean your family is broken. Stay consistent, stay calm, stay aligned with your partner, and stop making every difficult moment mean something catastrophic. Because most of the time, it's not evidence that you don't belong. It's evidence that you're raising humans, and humans can be really, really annoying sometimes. So if you're struggling with disrespect, role confusion, resentment, or feeling unsupported in your stepfamily, come join us inside the Stepmom Side community. You'll find stepmoms who actually understand what you're going through, real life strategies that actually work, and a place where you don't have to figure this out alone. I will chat with you next week. Thanks for taking time to listen to this week's episode. If anything was helpful or resonated with you, please share it on social media and tag me. I'm just at Alicia Crasco. And if you could leave a 5-star rating and a review while you're at it, that would also be really helpful. And if you find yourself struggling with your stepmom journey and you want a little bit more support without the hefty price tag of coaching, you might want to check out the Stepmom Side community, which is my own private community for stepmoms, where you get to connect with other stepmoms around the world and myself, where I hold weekly office hours and monthly group coaching. It's kind of like you have your own personal coach in your own back pocket. Again, without that hefty price tag. See you next week.